It's time for a review of what's making the headlines in the newspapers this morning, and let's cut across to our Lagos studio and speak with our eyes analyst, Constance Ikoku. Good morning.
Good morning, Adesuwa. Good morning, Charles. Nice to see you guys.
Good morning.
Good morning. Nice to see you too.
Okay, happy weekend again.
TGIF.
Yes, I know. Welcome to the weekend. Well, to look at the papers with us again today, we have Iho Akerera. He is a member of the Nigerian Guild of Editors. Hello there and welcome to the program. We begin with this day. We have the top story here on NNPC partners to begin construction of $500 million mini LNG plant in Ajokuta. The Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, NNPCL, will have a stake in 3 out of the 4 liquefied natural gas plants to be sited in Ajokuta, Kogi State. NNPCL Group Chief Executive Officer Mele Kyari talked about the federal government's commitment to its gas-to-power aspirations, saying natural gas holds the key to unlocking the future of Nigeria. It will be a catalyst for industrialization, job creation, and economic diversification. The LNG facilities will also provide a cleaner source of energy to households and industries, he explained. It's a great development if this eventually comes to fruition. We do know that the Nigerian Liquefied Natural Gas Company or Limited on Bonny Island is perhaps one of the most successful companies set up by the Nigerian government. If this new project is mirrored after it, that should be a success too. Plus, Nigeria does have gas in abundance that can be exploited for local use. Eagle.
Yeah, it's a great, this inspires a lot of hope, for not only Nigerians, in fact, across the West African sub-region, as it were, if this project, becomes successful, as you rightly said. This day, if you look at the This Day report, it is detailed, it captures all the expectations and the hope. But my worry really is that, yes, NNPC is having 90%, 3 of the companies, there are 5, NNPC has 90% stake in one, 50%, and then 10% in the other. Then the last 2 are privately driven. Yes, my worry this morning basically is, we've had all of these promises in the past. Nigeria has one of the country that hosts huge deposit in gas reserve, particularly, the Niger Delta area. We have been unable to take advantage of this for many years. We have the West African gas pipeline that is still under construction for many, many years on end. We are still on that. But if this comes true, I am sure that that will, is going to be a catalyst, as the paper rightly reported, industrialization, economic prosperity, job creation, et al. So, but we'll wait to see how the implementation will take off. It's a good one for Mele Kyari. He's been saying the right things and possibly doing the right things for some time now. We hope that this one will come true.
Yeah, definitely. Charles, do you have anything to add here about progress in Kogi State?
Well, actually, I keep wondering, what are those issues or factors that have been militating against this kind of initiative, exploiting gas to Nigeria's financial advantage. Remember, we flare gas on a daily, and the environmental impact of gas flaring is massive. So we spend lots of money flaring gas. We spend lots of money trying to mitigate the impact of gas flaring. And after that, anything that has been put in place, the West African gas pipeline and those other projects, anything that's been put in place for Nigeria to exploit gas as a resource somehow does not get to see the light of the day. So yes, this is a stitch in time, and it is also something that brings hope, but let's also believe that it will get to see the light of the day.
Yeah.
Because, really, gas Nigeria, we have lots of it and we're just not using it at all.
Yeah, so I think we might be having technical issues getting over to our studio in Lagos, so I'm just going to continue with the headlines. The headline there, the major story on this day newspaper says Cardoso, Naira's recovery attracting foreign investors. And the writer there says inflation could have reached 42.81% by December without CBN interventions, and disinflation within reach. Bagudu hails a synergy between fiscal monetary authorities. Adedeji, FIRS, generated historic 21.6 trillion naira in 2024, eyes 25.2 trillion in 2025, and sets key deliverables for department, says the era of unproductiveness is over. Now, this story here with Naira's recovery attracting foreign investors, we've seen even the EU envoy in the last 2 days coming out to talk about the amount of investment that the EU has spent in Nigeria over the recent years. However, you know, some people will push back on the CBN saying that, oh, inflation could have even been higher. Everything could have been worse, but it wasn't, and we thank God, but it's still not very good right now.
Well, Constance is back with us at this one.
Okay, I think Dr. Constance, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so we're just talking about this day, and the main headline there, Cardoso saying that the Naira's recovery has attracted foreign investors.
Right. A lot of foreign investment needed in Nigeria. Let's move on to the Guardian newspaper. Mission 300 by 2030. Optimism as West African cities get $50 billion lifeline, fresh bid for electricity. This article also has some solid statistics to put the story in context on the front page there. African population to double to 2.4 billion people by 2050. Urbanization increasing demand for energy. Africa holds 60% of the world's most attractive solar resources. And finally, there's a map here for us to see the total electricity generated on the continent. There are different types. There's non-fossil fuel energy efforts, wind, nuclear, thermal, geothermal, hydroelectric, and solar thermal. Igor, ambitious project this is, this Mission 300, but of course, we need to have grand vision, given the low level of development on the continent. Having said that, this needs to be matched by action. The days of big conferences and much talk doesn't fly with African audiences anymore, especially the younger generation.
Yeah, you aptly put it. So many conferences across Africa, from Ethiopia, Addis Ababa, Johannesburg to Abuja. Every time there are conferences, and basically nothing comes out of it at the end of the day. Now, this is a new vision to drive electricity supply to West African cities. They gave a deadline of 2030, and the whole idea is that they want to target 300 million West Africans, particularly in the rural areas and the communities and the cities. This is basically the bane of poor industrialization in the continent, particularly in West Africa. Without electricity and energy, what can you really do? You know, I read a report also in the Guardian where that also affects the health sector. You know, preservation of vaccines for newborns, for pregnant women, in primary healthcare centers where there is no electricity. So if this again survives, if this is achieved, I'm sure that is going to galvanize the necessary growth and industrialization in the West African sub-region. But again, we hope this is not another talk shop.
I mean, I don't think this is a talk show.
Very much so. It is good.
Oh, I was just saying I was just saying I don't think I'll chuck this up to another talk shop. I do think that sometimes we have policy that is put together but not necessarily implemented properly. But we have seen some of the Mission 300 work already being taken out in Nigeria by the Rural Electrification Agency. And the World Bank itself has set aside $750 million for Nigeria alone when it comes to mini-grid and off-grid solar solutions for Nigeria, particularly for rural electrification. Yes, we cannot industrialize, we cannot move forward if we do not tackle energy poverty across the continent. But it's one thing for us to say that the conferences are talk shops, or it's another thing for us to hold our leaders accountable when it comes to implementation and making sure that the money goes to the right places.
I can actually be very optimistic about this particular project because I was at an event sometime last year where the president of the African Development Bank, Akinwumi Adesina, was the keynote speaker, and he said the bank and its partners will prioritize electrifying Africa in 2025. Now, I think in keeping with that promise, we have had this particular conference, and then now we have a policy statement coming out of it. Hopefully, with the political will being exhibited from, the financing institution and its partners, I believe something will come out of this.
Very much so. A lot of work needs to be done in that area. Let's move on to the Punch. APC, PDP differ over Amaechi's power-drunk politician's comment. Former governor of Rivers State, Rotimi Amaechi, had earlier in the week said Nigerians are easily swayed. He said, and I quote, "All we have is typical of Nigerians. They will be clapping. That's why politicians get away with anything. They get away with murder because they have a short memory. None of you here can defend the votes." This was at a 2-day national conference on strengthening democracy. Certainly the right occasion to make this type of comment on the state versus the people. He also said these politicians are empowered to kill, steal, and simply retain power. Charles, what's your reaction to this?
Well, Amaechi is one for
You're laughing, but...
Amaechi is one for making controversial statements all the time. And it's remarkable how he seems to have turned against his own party, the party he left the People's Democratic Party to support to win the 2015 elections. I saw how energetically he campaigned for the APC. He became a minister under Buhari, and then this time around, he has done a complete about-face. But then, of course, I believe he is speaking nothing but the truth because he's been there. So he knows it. He who wears the shoe knows exactly where it pinches.
I don't think he's speaking out against his party, though. I think he's speaking out against some things, but I don't know if we should say he's speaking out against the party, because he did come second in the primaries,
yes.
When he ran against Bola Tinubu. So it's possible he's speaking out against the administration and not the party itself.
Well, quoting him, he says, if you think Tinubu will give it to you, you're wasting your time. When we speak, we forget history. And then, of course, he said before the election of the last president, a lot of us were called to intervene. Why did they do that? The people were ready to die. You are talking and abusing everybody. Nobody has power and will give it to you. If you want a pastor as president, go and get one. So what he's saying essentially is that, look, we the political class can't do anything for you. You fight for yourself.
Well, I think basically what Amaechi is saying...
Well, he was speaking to the docility of Nigerians somewhat, implying that you have to fight for power, you have to fight for your rights, you have to fight for democracy. If you do nothing, then the politicians will take you for a ride. Iyo, jump in, please.
Well, I think Amaechi is speaking to almost all the sides, his political party and then to Nigerians at the same time. But the issue is comments are free, facts are sacred. He is saying this because he's already outside of the political system. He's no longer a beneficiary of, the political largesse. He was once, the poster boy of the Buhari administration. He was all over the place. He was speaking massively in defense of the policies of that administration. Nigerians have not forgotten the railway, the railway projects that Amaechi also, executed, across Nigeria at a period that the world is gravitating towards a high-speed rail system. Amaechi is, as Minister of Transport then, spent billions of naira building moribund single gauge railway system.
Okay.
So these are the issues. Nigerians will forget all of this. It's good to talk, but we should have said all of this when it's in power.
All right. Let's move on to New Telegraph. Abdul Salami, I'm proud my government birthed Nigeria's democracy. We remember that the former military head of state ushered in democracy when he handed over power to an elected president on May 29, 1999, and that president was former President Olusegun Obasanjo. Abdul Salami was speaking at the Interparty Advisory Council public presentation of its book titled 100 Years of Political Parties Evolution in Nigeria, 1923 to 2023. He was represented by his chief security officer, General Abdul Rashid Aliyu. The former military leader said, and I quote, "Despite military interventions, democracy has come to stay in Nigeria. There is no substitute to the government of the people, by the people, and for the people, which democracy represents as sovereignty and resides with the people." And that's why we can begin to unpack this, but you find different interpretations to what is currently existing in Nigeria. Do we have democracy on paper or actual democracy? Are we really sovereign, or is this a paper sovereignty? I mean, that remains the big question when you really look at it critically.
Yes, definitely. I remember that President Obasanjo once said that when we got our independence from the British, we didn't get true independence, we got flag independence. And when we talk about democracy now, we're having leaders say that, do we actually have a true democracy? The former Vice President Atiku Abubakar has said that he made a clarion call against the Tinubu and the APC, saying that they had been engaging in systematic harassment, intimidation, and dismantling of the opposition. He cited particularly the arrest of Yele Shore and of Professor Usman Yusuf, who is an outspoken critic of this administration. And so when it comes to democracy, the importance in the democracy is that our democracy is healthy, are journalists free, do we have freedom of speech, are our rights protected, are the opposition parties left alone? When we come to these intrinsic basic tenets of democracy, that we might have doubts about the health of democracy in Nigeria.
Okay.
Well,
very well said. Let's move on to the international headlines. We have Citizen newspaper. Another focus on DRC today by Citizen. It was the same thing yesterday. DRC, SA looks weak. Rwandan President Paul Kagame claims President Cyril Ramaphosa is lying in regard to the verbal exchange on the death of 13 South African soldiers in the Democratic Republic of Congo. The Citizen newspaper claims Kagame has the upper hand in the DRC and treats South Africa with disdain, while the South African government says it is trying to find a diplomatic solution and also to push for a ceasefire. And the political and military experts say the killing of SA soldiers has weakened SA's position in the ongoing crisis. You can come in here, Charles. Analysts said that, Kagame obviously has an upper hand. He has been involved in that country for so many years, supporting rebels in the name of protecting minority, Tutsi minority, and all of that. But this crisis needs to be stopped. African leaders, whether South Africa, Kenya, all of them, they need to put a lead on this. It is getting out of hand as it is.
From the South African perspective, since 2024 and even before then, South Africans themselves were complaining that their forces in the DRC are underfunded, undermotivated, and poorly armed. And they've been taking a beating for some time. But, the killing of 13 of their soldiers serving under the United Nations has brought what has been simmering in the background to the fore now. And talking about that conflict in the DRC and its the interference from Rwanda. Yes, for some years now, right from when Mobutu was fighting a losing battle to keep a grip on his dictatorship, the Banyamulenge Tutsis were very instrumental in unseating him. Laurent Kabila did use the Tutsis, to unseat Mobutu, but then he just couldn't hold them back. And this time around too, they are still on the offensive, and naturally their kinsmen in Rwanda would definitely back them up. So it's been something that's been ongoing for years now. So it actually would take you know, very, very close observation from African authorities, the issue of the Tutsi involvement in the Democratic Republic of Congo. And Paul Kagame also would have to scale back because he's destabilizing that region with the attempt to, you know, defend and protect his kinsmen.
Okay, Igor, let me bring you into the next story, Daily Mirror. Fury at Trump's new law. Shameful, according to Daily Mirror on that headline. 64 die in a mid-air collision, and President Donald Trump is blaming it on air traffic control that were hired based on diversity. And this is America's deadliest air tragedy since 2001. It was blamed on diversity hire. 67 people died when a passenger jet collided with an army helicopter. Trump said you have people that are low quality and they have psychological problems and they should not have been hired. What are your thoughts on this? And he has gone ahead investigations to say all of this.
Well, it's interesting. Each time, well, Trump is back to power, you know, he's relishing the world with his usual tough talks. Sometimes some of these statements by President Trump, you know, elicits a whole lot of confusion, you know. As far as Trump is concerned, nobody is competent, nobody is efficient. He's only
except
himself.
white.
So he's the only one that can get things done.
Except
now, with regards to what is happening in the federal civil service in the United States, Trump is clearly implementing the Elon Musk playbook. Elon Musk, when he took over Twitter, he rolled out a policy where he actually told a lot of the Twitter staff at the time that they have the option of resignation, you know. So that is what they are telling the American public workers at the moment, you know, with policies rolling out every day, and managers of the system are struggling to, you know, to keep up with the different policies that are coming up for implementation. And they're also offering them the opportunity to resign. If you know you cannot cope with the new Trump policy, you can just throw in the towel. So these are challenging times for U.S. As for the air crash, I mean, the whole world is commiserating with America at this time.
Unfortunately, we have to go. Yeah. We've run out of time. Okay, thank you so much for joining us, Iyo Akere, a member of the Nigerian Guild of Editors, and that's all we have for the paper review today.
And thank you so much, Dr. Constance. It's always great having you on the newspaper review. That's all we have time for here on Daybreak. It's goodbye from me, Charles Eruka.
Well, please keep it here on Arise News. The morning show is up next. I'm Adesuwa Giwa Sage.